welcome back. I know my main focus is on edibles, but I bought my wife some bougainvillea. Bougainvillea. It's impossible to spell, it's impossible to say. Don't even try. It's bougainvillea. So I got some bougainvillea, and there's 3 different varieties here, which we are going to propagate. Now, if I bought it all, it would start to get expensive because we have problems with goats wandering through the yard and random neighborhood children and all kinds of things. And it's kind of nice to have a little bit of privacy, but it's nice to have some beautiful hedging going as well, rather than just, you know, putting up some big scary looking fence or something. So these are going to go around the edge of our property, and I need like 100 or more. So better start today with the propagating. So I figured, since I'm going to be doing this already, I might as well show you guys how I propagate them.
Get up in the morning time, making biscuits. Get up in the middle of the noonday, biscuits. Get up in the afternoon, making biscuits.
I really like these super pink orange varieties, but I have to cut the blooms off. This is so sad. Terrible. But don't worry, we're making more. Now, when you're propagating these things, you want to look for the semi-hardwood. That is this here. Semi-hardwood means it's starting to make some nice bark. It's not as green. This up here is probably too green to be good propagating material. So we're going to nip that off. And we'll nip that off. This piece right here, this is pretty good. And you can go shorter if you wanted to make more, or you can go a little longer. I'm going to go a little longer with this one. And I'm nipping off most of the leaves. I'm just going to leave a little bit for photosynthesis purposes up on top. And now there's my first cutting right there. So I do the same thing on this one. Alright, so that's kind of green, not so hot. This is cool. Cut these guys off. Same thing. See, if you leave too many leaves on the top of it, what you end up with is you end up with them losing moisture through the leaves, which you do not want. So you want to kind of cut them back a little bit there. So now I have, oh, look at that, there's another piece left there. So I'm going to take this one. Another thing you can do, if you have really big leaves, and you say, oh, I think that's a lot of leaf there, you can cut off part of the leaf so it doesn't lose as much water through it. And that's a nice cutting right there. So we have 3 of these kind of coral orange pink ones now that are ready to go. You know, if you do these things anywhere probably from 5 to 8 inches or so, you ought to be good. There we go. There's another cutting. And I am never going to remember which color is in which one. So if you're worried about which color is in which thing and you have multiple things you're propagating, it makes a lot of sense to label as you go. I like the sheer anarchy of not labeling and discovering later what happened. My wife would rather label them. But she has a camera, so she has no control right now. Alright, purple time. So this one, you can see this is woody. This is woody pretty much all the way up here. So I'm just going to nip the very top of it off, and I will get 2 cuttings out of this right here. And very easy. When I had a plant nursery, I have a miniature plant nursery. It's not a retail nursery anymore. It's just my own personal nursery now. But when I had a plant nursery, I would often do this for a couple of hours. Stick a whole bunch of cuttings with everything from, you know, mulberries or gummy berries and all kinds of stuff. And then we would stick them in big trays and put them under mist. But I'm going to show you how to kind of make not really a mist system, but a system to keep these cuttings moist without having any infrastructure whatsoever, because it's way easier. We're doing this stuff at home where you don't have to spend any money, hopefully. Alright, so there's a lot of green material up here. Cut all that off, and then there's the woody stuff down here. So that's it for the purple. Now I have to do the white. So I've got the salmon, the purple, and the white, and I think I'll just stick them. I'll probably remember, and all right. Thanks, sweetheart. Salmon, purple, white. Well, there we go. Just take these guys to the compost pile. Now I'm at the compost pile. So I have here some rooting hormone. There's all kinds of rooting hormone powder. Powder is my favorite, but you can also get a liquid type. This is available at Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart or your local nursery center or whatever. Stuff's really good. It increases the chances of things rooting well. Some people have told me, you know, you can use honey or cinnamon or whatever, but this stuff costs a couple of bucks and it lasts forever. So I don't bother with all that stuff. I just use this. It's what the nursery people use, so that's what I use. Very easy. And there's my salmon. And then I'll stick the purples. So all you're going to do is just, you know, you just dip the end of it and you shake it off. That, stick it in. Dip the end, stick it in. Dip the ends, you're just going to stick them in a couple of inches. So there's at least a node or two down in there that can root. So there's my purple. And then we will stick the white. This is not the way they're going to stay eventually. This is just for rooting purposes. We're not going to leave them in these little bags when they get bigger. We'll pot them up once they've got some decent roots on them. This is the watering can that I normally use, but it's important when you're propagating flowers to borrow a tiny pink watering can from your daughter if you have a daughter and if she has a tiny pink watering can. This is for flower propagation. So I'm going to water these really well. Now you'll see that I just put them in regular potting soil, seed starting mix, but you can start them in sphagnum moss, peat moss. You could start them in vermiculite, perlite, whatever, but I find just regular potting soil works well. And I think it's better to use potting soil that's not like Miracle-Gro potting soil. You can also make your own potting mixes with whatever compost and stuff you have. I've got other videos on making potting soil, but this works really nicely because it's loose and it holds moisture. So now, if we were to just leave them like this, there's a very high chance that they would dry out and die. So what we're going to do is we're going to give each of them a little greenhouse. You just use any kind of stick that you have laying around. I happen to live in the tropics. I have lots of bamboo. So stick a hunk in the middle here that's just a little taller than the cuttings. Like that. And then just take a plastic bag and go over the top. So what this is going to do is make a little humidity tent where we have almost 100% humidity inside these guys, and that piece of bamboo will keep it from sticking down on the leaves. If it sticks to the leaves often rot and they don't do nearly so well. So that is our little mini greenhouse. This is really easy. Now, I didn't have pots that were small enough to fit these bags, so I'm using the little plastic bag pots, but you can use pots, tin cans, old yogurt containers, doesn't matter. The plants don't know that you're cheap, and they don't care. This should cost you almost nothing. Your only cost, in this case, should be the rooting hormone, and if you buy potting soil. So these guys here just need to go in a shady spot and rest for a little while until they start rooting. These guys are now beneath my office where it stays shady all day. This is important because once you put these plastic bag tops on there, they can also roast the plants because it traps in heat. So if sun hits this, that is not good. You want to put them in a shady spot. I once stuck a bunch of bagged cuttings underneath my potting bench and forgot them for 6 months. And then came back and pulled them out and found that I had a whole bunch of all the trees had propagated inside of there. So when they have these bags on them, it keeps the moisture high enough that they're not going to dry out. You usually don't have to check them or worry about them. Just come back in about 6 weeks or so, maybe a month, and see if they've started to root. If they turn all brown and they look like they're dead, well, that cutting has given up. But if they start to put on new buds and shoots, they may drop these old leaves and put on new buds and shoots. You don't really know what they're going to do. Or if you check them and you take the bag off and you pull on it a little bit, and you find out, oh, that's rooted. It's stuck in the ground. Don't pull it hard. Just give it a little, like a test, and see if it's rooted into the ground. After they're well rooted and they've started to actively grow, then you pull them out of here and you pot them up in your own pots. So I'm going to show you one right here that my daughter propagated just a couple of months ago. This is a bougainvillea that she did. She took cuttings at a resort and she took a piece home and she went ahead and started them. But she started them without any rooting hormone whatsoever, and she stuck 5 cuttings and 1 of them took. You should get much better results with rooting hormone, but even without it, she still got a bougainvillea for like no work. She just stuck 5 of them in a pot. This is the one that lived. So it's really, really easy, and you'll get good results. Thank you for joining me. I hope you can go out and propagate some of your own bougainvillea today. It's not hard at all, really easy. It is the classic tropical flower, other than maybe the hibiscus. If we put them both in a cage match, I think the bougainvillea would win because it has thorns. But if you want to learn more about propagation, check out my book, Free Plants for Everyone, The Good Guide to Plant Propagation, in which I show you everything from grafting to starting difficult seeds to air layering, all kinds of cool stuff made really, really simple with illustrations. I'll put a link in the description of this video. Thanks for joining me. Catch you next time. And until then, may your thumbs always be green.
Bougainvillea.
Bougainvillea?
Bougainvillea.
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 Yeah, check it out. I'm a killer, I tear you to bits with the hedge of bougainvillea like a mad bull. Going with its horns, the scrambling vine rips you up with its thorns. Goodbye, trespass us, goodbye, thieves. You never get through all the flowers and leaves of the killer bougainvillea. Cause what you can't see is giving you grief. Spines of your flesh is beyond belief. But soon, when I'm through, gotta watch those cuttings beneath. Good grief, you know they'll wreck your bare feet.
Plus those aggressive defenses. Bougainvillea rocks hard. Popping ugly fences like your doom. It blooms, an explosion of blooms. Purple, pink, orange, white, and yellow and red. A tower overhead, dominating a bed.
It's scary, perfect for topiary. Cuttings root easy. Fairy, found by a chick dressed up as a man. An instant hit, like a top 40 band. With gardeners in the tropics, you know you can't stop it. It's true, cause bougainvillea stops you. Oh, stops you so hard.